All right, HELIO'S 40 lessons assume that you're working against someone who doesn't have as much knowledge of fighting or technical movement, especially from the jiu-jitsu world, as you do. But even so, people may, when they're on the ground, on their back, and you're stuck between them, they may naturally cross their feet, right? They may naturally cross their feet. And of course, when they do, they can pull you towards them, right? They can push you away. They can rock you side to side. You see, so this keeps me in this, we call it the blender, this constant 360-degree optional motion, right? Now, because of the prevalence of the UFC and MMA as a legitimate sport, everybody knows that this is called the guard, right? Before the mid-90s, when Royce won the UFC, very few people, if any, except those who trained in judo and jiu-jitsu, knew that this was a legitimate fighting position. Now everybody knows that this is a legitimate fighting position. So if you get into a confrontation, chances are that if the person you're fighting ends up on their back, they will try to cross their legs around you, right? Which means it's even more important now, even in the street, to learn how to manage and pass a guard, because it's not an entirely dominant position, especially with someone who knows what they are doing. And don't underestimate the power of people copying some of the things they see on TV. They can make it work. The movements are so rudimentary and so basic that a person who's got a decent amount of athletic prowess and a reasonable head on their shoulders can find ways to make these things work, right? So we have to be more prepared to defend ourselves than we were previously, because the culture of fighting has evolved, even in the general public's view. So, to pass Nate's guard, HELIO'S very basic application looks like this. All right. Now, over the years, many people who don't know what they're talking about, but who think they do, have criticized this particular pass as placing the passer in danger of being triangled. It's true that there are some periods here during which the triangle may be more available than others. But in jiu-jitsu, anything can happen at any time. What we're going to talk about is how moving through this in HELIO'S precise way would prevent you from being triangled. Keeps you safe from the triangle, right? The first thing HELIO does is control the person's hips, right? The person who's holding me in their guard is able to pull me or push me because their hips are free. You see, Nate can lift up and lower his hips here like an upa, right? And because the hips are free, the legs that are attached to me move in conjunction with the hips, and I get thrown all over the place. So the first option here is for me to establish a base, which we just learned in the previous lesson. Right? This is HELIO'S lesson 2, section 4. Section 3 was standing up in base. We mentioned that base has applications on the feet and on the ground. So here the knees are taking the place of the feet, and I spread them wide enough that I don't get toppled easily in either direction. Now this still means Nate can pull me both forward and back, push me back. So I'm going to put my hands in his hips with the fingers pointed out. No thumbs, the palms lock. 1, 2. Right? And the idea is not that when he pulls me in, I push as hard as I can. It's that I keep my elbows against my rib cage and in, and I let my natural body weight cover his hips. So when he pulls me, you see, it creates this, when he pulls me, what happens is his legs go behind my arms, and they bend my arms for me. You see, he creates this natural, he pulling, freeze right there. Look, it's a natural right angle, right? It's a natural angle that keeps him from pulling me any closer because his legs are solid, my arms are solid, solids can't pass through solids. He sticks himself. I don't have to hold on very tightly or be super strong. I just have to make this connection and then relax the elbows inside, keep the fingers pointed out. As long as my knees are straight, I'm not going to get tipped side to side. My knees are appropriately spread. I'm not going to get tipped side to side. And as long as my hands touch the hips here, I'm not going to get pulled too far forward or back, right? Once this happens, though, the person may grab my neck, grab my collar, and really start to pull more. And now it gets a little harder. They start to dip my head, right? So I'd like to take away the capability of at least one of their arms. And so you choose whatever hand you like. I'm going to use my right hand. And as they try to grab me and pull me down, I'm going to just cup the bicep here. Cup the bicep and spread the hand open a little bit. And again, if I lock my arm, now it's easy for Nate to take the arm and pull it across his body. Right? That's pretty easy. But if I keep the arm loose and relaxed and just be sticky on the bicep, just hold the elbow against the rib cage, I'm in much better shape. Right from this position, I'm going to step away from that arm. So whatever side you hold, the other leg steps away. Now watch what happens here. Let me spin. When I step away, it means the opposite leg steps. And in order for the opposite leg to step safely, the knee that's outside has to move inside. I have to compensate for that. So I don't just go here, because now I'm sort of low and I don't have the base power that I had before. So watch, I do this 1, 2. And you see what's happening is because the angle of my body turns, and because Nate's feet are tight, it starts to spread his feet farther away from one another. That's the beginning of opening his guard. Base position with the hands and the knees. Hold the bicep. Transfer the same side knee and now stretch the opposite leg. Now my goal is to put this hand underneath and get that leg on my shoulder. So I put my hand all the way to the ground. Then I put my knee back down and I'm just going to crawl away from the hand. And right here everyone says, oh, you're going to get triangled. And that's not true. Nate may be able to put his leg over my shoulder, right? But in order for the triangle to happen, he has to walk the hips completely out from underneath me, and he's going to take this arm and put it across. If I freeze and let this happen, of course, the triangle could happen. But if I hold the hips and keep the knees wide, and then hold the bicep and relax the elbow down into his hip, transfer the knee and step away, when I put the hand down and then put the knee down, right? As I crawl away from the hand, the guard opens, and I keep the feet away from each other. One way I do this is with this elbow here, locking the hip down, right? I also don't stay here for long. I like to get this hand across his opposite shoulder. So before he can sit up and try to cross the legs, I may let the leg go to the shoulder, but as soon as this happens, I take a big step with this foot, and I try to drop the knee by his armpit. And when I do that, I take my hand across his body too. Look, you see, the hand across the body puts pressure on the neck, and it gets this leg far enough away from this leg so that the triangle is no longer possible. Notice how I'm connected to his hip. I'm not all the way away here. I'm connected to the hip. And now I transfer all of my weight to Nate's leg by jumping to my toes, sprawling. And my goal is to force his knee to his nose. And when this happens, you can hear Nate breathing. So I just lift the head, and the leg passes itself. The leg passes itself. And you can assume a side mount position here, which you can learn about in our 36 lessons. Or you can sit backwards and climb to the mount. There's a lot of options, but we're really talking about the guard pass. One little trick that may make the guard pass easier for you is to forget about thinking of this guard pass as something that you power through. I'm not trying to beat the power of Nate's legs. In fact, I'm assuming that Nate is bigger and stronger. And because he's bigger and stronger, the harder he squeezes, the more advantage he gives me because I'm looking to slip. I'm looking to slip, right? Once I hold the hips, establish a base, hold the bicep, right? Transfer the knee, step away, put the hand inside, lower the knee and crawl away from the hand. Right here is the triangle danger. The harder Nate tries to get the triangle and squeezes his legs, the more he attaches himself to me. When this happens, the harder he squeezes, the more pressure he puts on his own neck, as long as I move. If I stay here, maybe he will be able to throw the arm across, and that's the beginning of the triangle. Right, but as soon as the leg is on the shoulder, if I take the step that I need to take and lower the knee and cross the arm, look, the harder Nate squeezes, the more attached he becomes. He's already making weird sounds, right? Now when I put all of the weight on him, I can even just sit backwards. Look, I can even just sit backwards. I can put the elbow next to his head, slap the legs, and climb over to the mount. All right, look in the early lessons of our 36 core curriculum lessons for how to mount properly, how to maintain the mount properly. All right, but the key here is to transfer the arm across the body, and then more than anything, to load so much tension into his leg that he can't wait to put it back down. And how do I do that? I put all of my weight, like this, on the leg. And now I just lift, and the leg slips out for me. If you try to take the leg and throw it off like this, it's very easy for Nate to just flip the leg around the front and stop me. Right? This is very simple, and it's very practical for Nate as well. It's not about throwing the leg off. It's not about holding the leg and shucking it off me. It's about putting Nate's feet as far away from each other as I can, which I do by maintaining angles, and then loading all of the weight onto one leg so that his diaphragm and chest and neck begin to feel crushed. And when he can't take that anymore, I relieve a little pressure, and Nate is desperate to straighten the leg and put it back down. And at that point, I'm no longer in the guard. No longer trapped. All right? Let's try this.